All right. Welcome everyone. Welcome. Good to see you, girl.
It's good to see you too. I never get enough seeing you, but
Listen,
I'm glad that we're here doing this,
for
and
sure.
that
for
feels
sure.
great.
Yeah. Well, welcome to Talking with the Boston's. I'm Keedron,
And I'm Katura.
and we are here today to talk about petty parenting.
Y'all,
Yes.
we started not to do this,
Start
and
not
then
to
we
do it.
said this is why we should do this.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, so super excited about that. So glad y'all are in. Y'all come on in and join. So what is petty parenting? What is petty parenting, Katura?
Petty parenting, because we're gonna jump right into it.
Yeah.
We're glad you came to talk with the Bostons about this petty parenting. So you've heard the term petty, and it's so much so that they made a song about it, didn't they?
They did.
P-E to the P to the
TTY.
T-T-Y, right?
Yeah.
Made a song about it, and it was all the rage. But we know that pettiness, period, is a response, right? It's an emotional response to something. And so we were talking about how it can get a little petty sometimes in parenting, and what we want to do to avoid those things. How do we lean more toward the mature side of parenting versus the petty side? And pettiness stems from the emotional response, again, that can come with some of the interactions that we have with our kids.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's from them, but it seems more appropriate, depending on what age they are, that they would, do things that are on, I guess, an immature or young level.
Right.
But our response to it should not be there with them. And they throw this term around too, like matching people's energy.
Right.
Don't match anybody's energy.
Yeah, especially not your kids. Okay.
Especially not children, but don't match anyone. We want to definitely move and speak and act and respond the way we feel like is most mature way, and the way we know the Lord will want us to, even when dealing with our children. But I think what really came up for us was the fact that sometimes as parents, we don't feel comfortable admitting that we have feelings that get hurt.
Yeah.
That get disappointed by some of the ways our kids even respond to us. And so let's just get into that, because Keedron is very proactive and intentional about thinking about how we address certain issues in our home before they get to a place where it's like knockout, drag out, and we're just really at odds, or we're bumping heads with the kids. Now, it's not to say that they don't disagree with some of the decisions that we make, no more than we disagree, or no less than what we disagree when it comes to some of the decisions that they make, or some of the expectations that they don't meet for our house that we know that we were clear on, and they just don't, for several reasons, right? And the first one being is that they are children and that they are immature. It doesn't change our expectations, but their responses do vary based on that. And so not going down to that level and being immature when they say certain things. You don't know as a parent that your feelings can be hurt until you hear a child say, I don't like you. I don't like you, mommy.
Listen.
Or have a kid say, I hate you. Or I can't wait till I grow up and move out.
Right.
I mean, on a good day, we're like, baby, that's not a threat.
Listen,
we're raising you to be able to do that.
Don't threaten us with a good time.
Don't threaten us with a good time. Look, we are not those ones.
Right.
Hi, Miss Licia. But we definitely want to make sure that we are responding appropriately, and really responding has a lot to do with how we process and reconcile our own emotions. And I think it starts with us being okay to say that sometimes our feelings do get hurt by some of the things our kids do and say, and how we feel like they're treating us. And rather than becoming petty or getting to their level, or doing things that are more like vengeful or spiteful, exacting consequences with that motive in mind, we would consider that petty. Would you agree?
I agree. But like you said, I think you touched on it. We do have feelings as parents, as people. And then also, we know how much we do for our kids.
Is that part.
Right? You know what I mean? We know how much we do for them, and we know how much we would like to do for them, and how much we want to do for them. In times where we can't, or maybe it's, we're not able, or whatever the situation or circumstance is. We still know our intentions when it comes to our children. And so when we come to a disagreement, or there's something that now we have to address, in the house, and we might be a little agitated, right? sometimes we might be tempted to take a little jab at the kids because we know that it just, something, and it's almost like a prideful thing too. When you think of pettiness, and like, even if you don't have children, but like, if you've ever been petty, with a coworker or with a friend or somebody that just agitated you, and you knew that you could do something that just, if I did this, it just made me feel like, I got him. I got him on that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, somebody doesn't want you to, touch something a certain way, and you do it just to spite them, just to get under their skin, and so
we would say that that's petty.
Right.
We would say that that's absolutely being petty.
For sure. And sometimes we can do that with our kids, because we're just trying to, not even, it's almost like a form of sarcasm. Like,
it's like behavioral
it's like behavioral sarcasm.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And it is, because what you're trying to do is make a point that you have a level of authority that you can use against them too, to repay them for what they, not just what they did, but how what they did made you feel.
Yeah.
And we have come to understand that the more appropriate response is to have conversations, and that moves into communication.
That's good. Yeah.
How do we communicate how we feel? Because here's the thing. Kids will misstep, and they will say things and they will do things that we don't appreciate, and we need to address them. So this is not to be mistaken for consequences.
Right.
Really, the difference between petty parenting and mature parenting is going to be your motivation.
Yeah.
So is your goal to really teach them something? So let's say one of our kids says, one of your kids says to you, let's pick on y'all tonight. One of your kids says to you, or your niece and your nephew, you love them. Okay. You have done for them. They break your budget every time they come around you, right? You enjoy their company, but you tell them that they aren't able to do something that they're asking you to do. Now, you've done all these other things, and maybe you still have other things great planned that you want to do with them, but this one thing you don't give them a yes on. And they say something like, man, I don't like coming over here. I wish I didn't live here. I wish I can go to so-and-so's house. Or I don't like you. Or I hate you. Or I'm sick of this. Or you hear them mumbling under their breath. The truth is, yes, it was disrespectful, but how you respond to it determines whether or not this is going to be a petty reaction. Because what their expression is letting you know is giving you intel on how they express. It doesn't mean how they express or what they're expressing is accurate. And it doesn't mean that it's long term.
Right.
So a kid saying that they don't like you is not, oh, well, they didn't mean it. No, they probably meant it for that moment, because we look at them and be like, you know what, if you wouldn't. We can get to, you can mean it, but it's temporary.
Yeah.
But kids should be less mature than us when it comes to considering this is something that is temporary. So I don't want to say something that could have a permanent outcome or permanent consequences, because I'm saying something right now that I feel that I'm not getting or I'm not able to do right now.
Yeah.
And so it's really informing you. They don't know how to express themselves appropriately, because this is the same human who was excited when I was blessing them and doing this and doing that. This was the same person. And all of a sudden, I'm not giving them what they want. And so now they're reacting this way. And when that happens, you start to think, this is not a reciprocation of what I've extended to them. And so now my feelings are hurt.
Right.
And now you have to resist the urge to
be petty.
To
say,
and you have to respond accordingly.
I'm going to Sonic and I'm getting me a slush today. When they're leaving, right? When they headed back home.
And don't ask me for when.
Right. But I think that's a good point. It's really about communication, to communicate how you feel, how certain things made you feel, that have happened with our children, or people that we love, because that's really what's going to resolve an issue. That's really what's going to help, at least, for us to move the needle forward when it comes to, just keeping our relationship well,
at the center of that. Yeah, and at the center of that interaction, like you always say. And I think it's important for parents to not only communicate, but communicate in such a way that's very clear. Like, wow, you hurt my feelings when you said that. That hurt my feelings. because ...
Yeah.
Wow, that was hurtful. I didn't expect you to talk to me like that because my intentions were XYZ.
Right.
And this is how you responded. And this is how it made me feel. You can still walk away. It doesn't mean you stay there and you have to demand an apology. I honestly, and I could be different. Y'all tell me, what do y'all think about this? I've never believed in forcing kids to apologize. I prefer to have communication and conversation first and let them think. If I can get them to think long enough to find a place of empathy themselves, apology is much more easy because I don't want them just saying sorry. And when our kids were growing up, I used to tell them all the time and say, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, I know you learned that at school, but I want you to say, I apologize. And I want your sibling or the person on the receiving end to say, I accept your apology. We're not saying, I'm sorry, that's okay. No, you're not sorry. You are apologetic because you feel and you understand that whether you intended to hurt someone or not, you did. And by me accepting it does not say that the behavior was okay or should be tolerated. It's saying that I accept. I'm also going to have enough compassion to accept your apology. I accept that what you're saying is real and is true. And so we force two kids to lie when we make one say sorry and we make the other one say it's okay. So that's just me, but y'all
and it's
can
not
let
real.
me know.
It's not genuine. And
it's not genuine. And I don't know that I don't know that it really teaches empathy because really that's why we tell kids to say that they're sorry, right? Or we want them to apologize because we want them to genuinely consider the feelings of someone else.
Yeah, how their actions impacted
exactly
someone else. Yeah, exactly. That's real. That's real. How do you think? Okay, so we're in talking about petty parenting and how we are handling situations when our kids or loved ones do something to us that maybe disappoint us, upset us, frustrate us, whatever that is, will cause us to do something to get back at them, right? Over I guess, and I'll just say it, over punishing, right? Since like, a lot of our kids,
it's not meaningful, it's not logical, right? It's just
I want to do something I can do because I can, if I bought you a phone, you have a phone, and just because you do one little thing, I'm going to say you can't have your phone for a month,
right?
I'm done, right? Now that is something that is totally fine to do if it's going to really help them and make a point and really teach them a lesson, right? If it's going to be meaningful, it's going to be logical.
Right.
But you want to make sure that whatever you do before you speak it, that you are okay with living that out too. You know what I'm saying? Because if you say, hey, this is going to be how long it's going to be, then you have to be the one to stick to that because our kids know the stuff that we're not serious about, the things that we might not follow through on. They know it.
Yes.
Remember, we are their world. You know what I mean?
And their only set of parents.
Right.
So they know us. They get to know us really, really well.
We are the biggest voice and the greatest influence in their lives, whether we think it, believe it, see it or not. It's true. And it's a beautiful thing. And so for us as adults, we're dealing with so many other people, so many other conversations, so many other commitments that we have on the outside of our home. And then we also have commitments on the inside of our home that we're having to manage and think about. But our kids, they're only thinking about what we said to them. They're not thinking about what we said to everybody else, other promises, other commitments, other things like that. And so they know where our weak spots are. There's when it comes to discipline, when it comes to follow up, all of those things. They know. I mean, we've had some reality checks. I know personally for me, I had some reality checks, personally from, one of my kids, one of our kids that I was like, man, okay, let me tighten up, but to say that when we're going to teach them something and train them, because ultimately that's what discipline is. Disciplining our children, it means to teach and to train them, not to punish. Punishment is different than discipline.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so we're not punishing our kids. The Bible didn't tell us to trust them. It didn't tell us to punish them. It told us to train them.
Right.
And we know that it's repetitive. We know that we have to when it comes to training, it's repetitive. You
That's
do
right.
it over and over and over again until it's ingrained into their system, into their mental, until it becomes somewhat second nature.
Right.
And so, yes, I'm gonna have to tell you again. You know, I know your parents have
Over
maybe
and over
said
again.
this. I've said it. How many times I got to tell you that? Well, I'm gonna have
I
to
was
tell
just
them
getting ready
again.
to say that.
Right?
Yes.
You're gonna have to tell them again. And so, I'm gonna let you finish. I'm gonna let you share.
No,
but I want to make the point of, before we become petty, before we get petty, you know, be mindful
Right.
and think about what you really need in that moment.
Right.
Because ultimately it's up to you on what you want to do as far as how you're going to train them or teach them in this moment. And pettiness is not going to be effective when it comes to it.
No, and it's also it's modeling response. You ever see how something can happen with the baby? Like maybe they're walking and they fall down. And if you say, "Oh no," you see them begin to cry hysterically. And then you can see a child, maybe even yours or a niece or a nephew, right? They can fall and you can say, "That's okay, you got it. You got to get up." And you see their demeanor change. That is a form of transferring of emotions, and you're teaching a response. So that's why it's dangerous to play the game of being petty with your kids, because you are teaching them how to respond.
For sure.
And they won't, and even if they think that they can't do it with you, like I can't maybe come at my parents that way, but subconsciously it'll come back out and it'll express itself through their siblings, through classmates in school, through their friends. You'll hear certain ways that they talk and speak and deal with certain things based on that. So in the early stages, it's modeling. Now, it's a whole nother thing when they become teenagers. We saw, I think you and I both may have seen this video, but there was a video that almost went viral if it did not go viral completely. This parent heard that their child was cutting up in school and came to school, which I'm not against.
Okay.
Cutting up in school, I am.
Yeah.
But not against a parent coming to school.
All right.
Came to meet the teacher, not against that either. But this parent snatched up and humiliated this child in front of their class and then sent them back to school the next day with a ratchet haircut. I mean, cut little plugs and everything in his head. You want to be the class clown, you're going to look like one. And so, yes, I mean, and to a certain degree, you know, we can always say we don't have enough context, right? We don't know how far this had gone. We don't know what kind of consequences were exacted beforehand, but he's cutting up and he wants to act like a clown, so he's going to look like one. For me, that was teetering on petty parenting.
Yeah.
Because I felt like you have a 14-year-old child that now has to live with this and deal with this and the ramifications. And yes, it hurts. You got their attention. You got them. You got them when you showed up to their class. You got them when you sat down in that desk. You got them when you cursed them out in front of all their friends and you chose to record them. You got them when you went home and gave them the what for in the car or at the house. You got them. You got them. You got them. You got them. And then you gave them the curse that keeps on cursing. By giving them the haircut. Like the gift that keeps on giving is the gift. Like it's not just a gift, but you can hang it up and keep it. It's non-perishable. It was almost like this. They have to live with this now. And there was like a no hat, no hoodie policy on this campus. And so now this kid is dealing with this and the ramifications of that. Now, I have seen stories where I never got to hear the back end. This story on the back end, this boy ends up getting into 2 more fights in the school year because kids were joking and carrying on. One of them was actually his friend. This friend had spent the night at his house before. So he ends up getting into a fight with this friend because apparently it was all fun and games until his feelings got hurt again. He got embarrassed or it came out later on down the road in the year, whatever the case was. 2 more fights, all surrounding this topic. This parent got back on the internet and said, I'm not trying to say I made a mistake because I'm going to raise my child how I want to, but maybe that was too far. I appreciated that because that almost never happens. But that parent had the child on camera again with them and said, since then, we've learned how to communicate a lot better. and we're gonna move forward. This won't happen again. Now, the reason why I can say I appreciate them coming back on, because I would say, no, keep the baby off the internet, keep the baby off the YouTube, for crying out loud, keep that baby off. But I felt like that parent did this because since they publicly shamed him on the internet, they came back to try to rectify and reconcile it on the same internet with this young man dressed very appropriately, haircut, back faded. He looked nice, handsome young boy. And we know that he learned his lesson, but I think there was some relationship things that they had to breach. I mean, that had been breached. I'm sorry, pardon me, tongue tied. That they had to reconcile within themselves before that video could even take place. Why am I sharing this? Because it wasn't that we're not saying don't have consequences. Right. We're saying you need to think through what is meaningful, what is logical. And if you're trying to teach them, if you're trying to train them, we have to be a little less zero tolerant, saying like if this, then that, and be more, I guess, personal when it comes to what our kids need, even in the consequences. Yeah. And not just saying, no, when I was young, my parents wouldn't have went for this. And it's okay. Your parents shouldn't have went for it. Whatever you did that they shouldn't have went for, you shouldn't have been doing it. They shouldn't have went for it. Yeah. You know, I'm not against consequences. They don't all have to be extreme, but they do need to be appropriate.
No, for sure. And it's just making me think too, like when we do certain things, it could, I know, and some of you may have experienced this, you know, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, where maybe you felt like you went too far, or maybe, you know, as a kid, you know what I mean? Maybe an adult, a parent, you know, somebody in your life, you know, maybe was a little petty for something that they did. And it may have stopped you from doing what you did.
Sure. Yeah.
In the house to them because you were scared of them. You know what I mean? I don't want that to happen again. But how is that helping me for somebody that I'm not afraid of? How is that helping me outside of the house for somebody that, look,
has no authority?
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that at home.
Right.
I'm not gonna clown like that at home or at school where my mom and them is going to get wind of it. But what happens when I get older and now I'm my own boss and nobody can tell me what to do? That lesson doesn't matter to me anymore because it only mattered in that area. Right?
And that
context, in that context with those people in that time. What we want to do is really impart something into the lives of our children that it's a life skill. So no matter where they are, when they grow up and they're out of our house, they learn a lesson that can carry them even in their job, even in their workplace, even in the streets, in the world, because it's like, man, I learned a lesson. You know, I had a conversation and saw the impact that it made on my family and other people. And so there's a higher level of accountability when we do it that way. So it's not just, I'm doing it because I want you to stop it in my house and in the school. I want you to stop it, period, in the world. Like, you know, for your world, you're going to be an adult one day. You're a leader. As we see our children, as we see them now, like they're just, how do you say, like they're just the immature version of the adults that they're going to be later on. Right?
I say it all the time.
Yeah, you know, and so how are we training them to be effective outside of our house, outside of our I don't want to say influence, but outside of our control. You know, there's a certain level of authority, supervision as parents right now from, you know, 1 to 18 or as long as they're in your house, you know. But we want to give them more than that. And so, but I don't want it to sound complicated. It's just,
it's not
having a conversation. Yeah. Right. Be intentional, have a conversation with them about how it made you feel, but also how it impacted other people. You know what I mean? And how it impacts other people in the house, how it impacts other people at school.
Yes.
You know, depending on what's happening, instead of saying, well, I'm going to punish you just because that punishment is going to, you know, suit you best. You know, now they're accountable to your punishment and not to your relationship.
Right.
And you want them to be accountable to your relationship, not to the consequence.
Absolutely. No, that's true. And I like what you said right there. And we have some good stuff in the comments. Shelly says she likes that teaching a life skill. This is more than punishment. It's more than just the consequence for this moment. This is about life skill. We want them to grow up, right, and be able to use this as they continue to grow up, because they're going to be adults longer than they're going to be kids.
For sure.
And so everything we teach them, we have to assume that they're going to use it. However it evolves, they're going to need that foundational truth and skill. So thank you for that. And then
right here,
brother-in-law Jermaine says, unfortunately, some people still have childish ways in them. So they choose to respond to their children or their kids' behavior issues in a childish manner. Good parenting requires a level of maturity from us. Help us, Lord.
Yeah.
That's all we're trying to say. You get it. You get it. It requires maturity. And that's what we said. There's a difference between the difference between petty parenting and mature parenting is always going to be the motive right in the middle.
Yeah.
And so even as parents, we get it. Everybody starts parenting at various levels.
For sure.
I don't care if you become a parent at 40. It does not mean that you know all the skills that it takes to raise a child. That's not the thing. A lot of it is you are flying the plane as it's being built when it comes to parenting. Like, you're learning as you go.
Right.
But there are certain things in yourself that you have to be humble as a parent enough to check. Like, we've apologized. Like, it's normal in our house to apologize to kids.
Right.
It is normal in our house to say we have to let everybody have a turn talking. This is not like, you heard I'm talking right now, nobody else gets to talk. I know what I know. That's it. This is the consequence. Everybody's gonna get it. We have raised 4 kids. I can't say that we have 4 kids still in the house. We have 2 adult kids, and then we have 2 teenagers. We have a preteen who's 12, and we have a 15-year-old. So that looks different now. But even then, we understood that there were people from the culture that did not understand sometimes. Like, you don't let them speak, and they just need to do what you say. And we're like, they understand that. They're learning that. But when something happens amongst siblings and we really want to know what the truth is, and we really want our kids to feel seen, valued, heard, and have an opportunity to speak the truth and to express appropriately, we did take the time to say, we have to hear from every party involved.
Yeah.
That does take longer, but it feels better than just throwing out a general consequence. Everybody go to bed. Like, I done got that at my cousin, with me and my cousin, like, dang, that wasn't even us. That wasn't even me. But giving them an opportunity to say, my parents actually want to hear from me. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't give consequences. In fact, we have a lot of consequences. There's a scale, there's a spectrum of consequences ranging from, you gonna get this lecture, you're gonna have to sit down.
So you're going to get some leather justice.
Yeah, you're going to get some leather. There has been a spectrum, right? There has been, you're going to sit in timeout. There has been, get in the car. We going for a ride. We need to talk. There's a spectrum. So there's not a one size fits all for any one child or any collection of kids in your family.
Right.
And so giving them an opportunity to feel seen and heard also gives them an opportunity to learn how to tell the truth and to learn how to express themselves and hold their siblings accountable. You're not a good sibling because you're good at lying for each other or covering for each other. You're going to cover them straight on to hell because this is sinful. If you really want to cover your brother and sister, look, that got real preachy, didn't it? You want to cover your brother or sister when you see them getting into it, help them. Talk them out of it. Or when they're done or they're getting their consequence, go knock on their door. Say, can I come in? Hey, I know you're upset right now. You understand what happened? We challenge our older kids to say that. I'll tell Symphony in a minute. Symphony, go talk to your little sister, please. Sometimes I'll be rationalizing with Symphony. Symphony, you know where I'm coming from, right? Like, did that feel like too much? And she'd be like, no, Mom, it sounded like this. It sounds like this. I said, okay, when you get a chance, when she's calmed down, would you mind going to have a conversation with her too? Just like a big sister talk.
Yeah.
That is okay too. So that's the point. But I think we can go back to even what Brother Jermaine was saying about just not being immature as parents, recognizing where you're mature and where you're not. Because I feel like over the years, Keisha, you've been super mature in ways that I was not as a parent.
I mean,
Well, okay, let me give an example.
Because
you're such a good dad, y'all. He's a really good dad. Okay, he's qualified to have this conversation. This man,
but you're a good mom too. So I mean, you'd have to just explain to me what you're saying, because you do a great job of being clear, setting clear expectations for our kids, and making sure that they understand what's expected. So I mean, that's all I can ask. You know what I mean? Like that's how it works. But yeah, go ahead.
So I would say this about Kedron. Over the years, like there were times where I would be so overwhelmed as a young parent. That's number one. A young parent and a parent of multiple kids of multiple age groups, 2 older kids and then 2 younger kids, and then a wide gap in between, and then being a career woman too, and being a church leader, right? Being a wife and wanting to be good. And wanting to be good at all of them. There were days where stuff would be going on with them kids and I would get overwhelmed and say, everybody just lay down. Everybody lay down. Or I would be on the couch downstairs napping because I'm exhausted. And they bumping and fumbling and falling downstairs and falling up the stairs and crashing and all. And I would, everybody lay down. And he'd be like, come on, don't do it. Come on, it's 4:30.
Yeah, because we're going to be doing a whole bunch of undoing. They still
all
got to eat. They still got to take baths. I'm like, hold on.
He was like,
you're going too hard right now.
But I had done it before. Like, I'm telling you a time where he finally said something. I had done it before plenty of times. Like, everybody get there and lay down. Y'all gonna sit down. You ain't got
to. And look, I'm somewhere like this. Oh, no, see,
because then they wake up. Okay, it's 4:30. They wake up at 6:30, hungry, not showered, and are like on 57, not 10.
Refreshing.
They on 57. They have a fresh wind. Like, they wake up like, did we miss the bus? Is it time to go to school? like thinking it's the next day, on that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, this was really not to our advantage. These jokers are up. They want cereal. It's 10:30.
Yeah. It's really like, what do we need right now? What do you need them to do right now? You know what I mean? I mean, she really, want them to go to bed right now, because I know they're going to be all the way out my head, you know? But you know, I would just take the time in those times, you know, because I know, you know, resting, trying to do what you do, you know, to refresh and think so, but
tired, boss.
Just taking the initiative to just say, okay, look, this is what y'all need to do. Boom, boom, boom. You know, and be clear on our expectations to just address those things, because we're gonna have to talk about it anyway. We're gonna talk about those things anyway, and putting them to sleep in that time they were gonna do it again. You know what I mean? Potentially, but at the same time, we definitely want to teach them a lesson. But look,
something meaningful.
Yeah, and it's not even to be super analytical in all these times either, because sometimes you just go with the flow. It is what it is. Moments happen where this is what you really need them to do. So,
and that wasn't second nature for me, because if we can first, before I say what I was gonna say, I know there was a comment we were gonna talk about real quick. Shelly says, I love how y'all, this is our little sister, okay? Her name is Carissa on screen, but we call her Shelly and Shelzy. We love you. Okay, I love how Kedron engages with the kids. I love how you, Couture, always know what to say to the kids. The way you take up for your kids is everything. Oh, thank you, Steve.
Yeah, that's real talk. Thank you, Shelly. Love you, bud.
Isn't that a part of it though, too? Like, that's part of what we were talking about in the beginning. How sometimes our feelings get hurt because we know how down we are for our kids, right? You know, there are few things that you would not do, move heaven and earth to make them happy, to give them a yes. And so when they wow out on you or start talking crazy, I don't like you. You're not, I don't want you, you know, when they're little, and then when they're older, like, I can't wait to move out. It's like, I told Zoe, I'm working on my diss track.
She's been saying that all week.
If these
we
kids,
almost talked about that today. A diss track.
My diss track. I'm making a diss track. I'm getting them. They better not.
Oh my goodness.
I don't think that it's a joke, but I mess with them and they laugh.
For real.
a little bit. I used to be the freestyle queen back in the day, so I'm just saying I have not forgot. But it's one of those things, like, how much you put into trying to be the best mom or dad or guardian parent, auntie, uncle for your kids. And Cashel and Jermaine, Carissa and Cashel, I'm sorry, I'm saying both of your names. Carissa and Jermaine are great auntie and uncles to our kids. We love them so much. As well. Yes. And great parents. These are two people that we would probably have a whole family meeting if we found out that our kids gave them a hard time, even because we know how much they love these kids too.
Oh, no doubt about that.
But it's like that, right? Sometimes petty responses come from you knowing how much you care about these kids, how much you do for them. So when they make little smart remarks, or they say, or they express themselves out of frustration, and it hurts your feelings, what we're trying to discourage parents from doing is reacting in a petty way. Don't give consequences out of a need to be vengeful or to just do something because you have authority to do it back to them and to hurt them or make them feel how you want them to know you feel. The better way to do that is to have a conversation. That hurt mommy's feelings. I can't believe you talk to me like that. I wouldn't do you like that. Why would you talk to me like that? That hurt my feelings. And walk away. You don't even have to turn it into an argument. You don't have to go back and forth. But I think if someone needed permission to say, as a parent, I have feelings too, this was it.
Here's your sign.
Here was your sign. You have every right to be open, honest, and clear. We're not making our children responsible for our feelings. We're holding them accountable to the relationship. And we're in relationships, or we get out of relationships, right? Based on how they make us feel.
Good or bad.
Good or bad. So for your entire life, right? My husband says this: you're in relationships for how they make you feel. You get out for how they make you feel. So this is, again, one of those life skills. It's holding them accountable to the relationship. We have a relationship. How you make me feel matters. Even when, so we can give them some grace for saying, okay, they didn't mean to say that. But are you able to use how they express themselves as intel to say, man, that really frustrated them? Let me try to figure out why. Now, it could be no fault of your own. They're just used to hearing yes so much that when I told them no, they just didn't like it.
They're little yes monsters.
They little yes. They can be little yes monsters.
Little yes monsters.
I like that. Y'all put that in the chat. Yes monsters. And then the other thing could be, it wasn't that you told them no. It's how you said it. Like, no, every time I turn around, you want something. You always ask for something. You always begging for something. That's just an example. How do you tell them no? Can you say, you don't even have to tell kids about your finances. You can say, not this week. This is not the best time, but thank you for telling me that that's what you want. I have even put it in my notes. Like, that's what you remember when the kids were little. My mom would do this. I know. So see, and
thank you for telling me.
Thank you for telling me that, because there were some Christmases where they would see stuff on TV and they're like, oh, I want this. I'm like, that's what you like? You like that kind of stuff? I'm like, yeah. And I was like, that would be great if you could get that. Okay, I'm gonna keep it. What is it called again? And then they tell me, okay, if there's any way I can get you that, I'm gonna get you that because you deserve it. You deserve it. Them kids are fine. They appreciate just being heard. My mom, we would take them to her house, and she had a Toys R Us across the street from her. I mean,
shout out to Toys R Us.
Shout out to Toys R Us. Rest in peace. Where a kid used to be a kid. Y'all took that from us. Snatched our youth. Can't go buy a kickball nowhere for $2 no more. Yes. Walmart want $2.59 for them in the summertime. Hula hoops is running $3 anyway. Yeah. I only know because we're in kids ministry. But she would take them to Toys R Us. And one day I went with her and I'm like, I don't feel comfortable, and I didn't want to say it in front of the kids. I don't feel comfortable. I don't have money to buy them toys in here. They're all going to want something. And I don't have money to buy all of them a toy out of Toys R Us. And she would put the two little ones in the basket and let the two big ones walk beside the basket. And she would walk up and down every aisle and let them see every toy. And whatever they wanted to stop and touch and play with, she would let them.
It was genius.
She would let them walk through the store with it. They would see something else and put what they had in their hand down and move on to the next thing. And she would, and I said, oh my gosh, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't let, and I mean, the ones that was in the basket, she would put toys in there with them, and they sit in the basket and play. And she would have Capri Suns. She would take frozen Capri Suns in her purse and let them drink Capri Suns in the store, and have crackers and graham crackers in her purse. Hi, Abby.
Hey, Abby.
And would let them snack and play with the toys, and obviously not at the same time, because my mom is definitely a germaphobe, so she's not letting them be touching toys and putting food in their mouth. Yeah. But by the time they start getting hungry and start smelling like hot dogs or whatever from the little Target center or whatever they was cooking, she's like, okay, let's get ready to go home. I got y'all some snacks. I got stuff to eat. And while we're walking back to the house, I got snacks for y'all. I got Capri Suns and cookies and chips and all this kind of stuff. So they're walking back from the house with their little, sunglasses. And normally what she would do, she would get them like something that was maybe $5 total. They will all come home with like new sunglasses or a bottle of bubbles, eating chips and drinking Capri Suns.
Good old time.
And they had a ball, and she was, and I'm like, how do you? She was like, look, it's air conditioned in here. I'm just taking my time. I'm walking around. Little walking wouldn't hurt me. I'm just walking around. Yeah. They're playing. They're sitting stuff down. And I didn't have to buy. And I tell them, okay, no, you already played with it. That's okay. We're going to put everything back. And we're going to head back to the house. Y'all want to go to the pool? The pool at the apartment complex is free. Yeah, we want to go to the pool. Okay, well, y'all eat y'all snacks. Put on your sunglasses, because we're going to go back outside, and we're going to walk back to the house, and we're going to go upstairs, and we're going to go to the pool. And they're like, well, we want McDonald's. You don't need no McDonald's. I made y'all some sandwiches, and I got some hot dogs. And who wants some more chips and cookies? Oh, my gosh. Genius. She taught me as a grandmother that kids are way more simple than we thought.
Yeah.
And as a young mother taught me that, I'm like, you are not the same mother. You are not the same mom. Because I was in the store like, don't touch nothing. Don't ask me for nothing. I don't have no money. I'm not getting this for you right now.
Don't look at nothing. Don't smell nothing.
Don't smell nothing. Don't ask for nothing.
Don't see nothing.
Don't see nothing. We in here for one thing. We getting in and we getting out. And we did not go to a toy store just for fun. And so we laugh about that. We bring it up now, and the kids still remember that. And it only happened maybe 4 or 5 times, but it's a memory that they have.
Yeah.
And so
I remember. I feel like she did that for me. Like I was in Toys R Us playing with toys and Legos and little Lego stations and stuff.
Absolutely.
I went one time with her. Actually.
We did go with her.
I remember that.
And he was playing with toys. You ended up on somebody's tricycle.
Listen, I'll do it.
Okay.
Shoot,
and we didn't buy the tricycle. He played with it in the store, and he was fine when we left without the tricycle.
Right.
So, moral of the story is people are more simple. No, that's not the moral of the story.
That's fine.
But man, just realizing sometimes we just need to slow down. Yeah. We need to be practical. It's not a lot. There's nothing in a book.
Practical, not petty.
Practical, not petty.
Practical, not petty.
When it comes to parenting.
Yeah.
And a little humility goes a long way. Yeah. If you just tuned in, don't miss this. We did say it. I don't know if we can say it's required for everybody, but I think it was required and necessary for us to be humble as parents. And not let pride override our parenting.
Because parenting is humbling as it is.
Oh, yes.
Like I know I've had some humbling moments where
talk about it. Seth.
You think everything that you did was good enough.
Tell the people
everything you did for these kids. You feel like, haven't I done enough?
Right.
Today, just in today, not just in life. You know what I mean?
So 6 Flags and a turkey leg.
Oh man, and then you come back home and they hungry still and they want to go play some more. And I'm like, but parenting is a humbling thing, I think, throughout the journey.
Yes.
And so, but it's good to humble ourselves in times too, in such a way where we recognize that, look, of course we know we're not perfect.
Right. And that's not the goal.
That's not the goal. And
we're practicing.
Look, let me show y'all this. There was this quote, this is a great segue to this. Miss Sue Atkins. She said, there's no such thing as a perfect parent. So just be a real one.
That's gangster.
Just be a real one.
We're adopting her. This is parenting auntie. We're adopting her because I promise we have said things like this before. We're not perfection as a parent is not the goal. We are practicing.
Yeah.
And it's not to say we don't want to be good.
Right.
But our kids set the standard for how we're doing. They're kind of our metric system because each of them needs something different. Yeah. And it's okay to know that. And here's the challenge, because we don't want to make it seem like, oh, it's easy. Just be, just don't be petty. Be a mature parent. Be practical.
It's not easy.
Here's the thing. Lord. We say this often too to parents that we serve when we're encouraging them to just keep at it because they're doing better than they think.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? But your kids have different personalities. And every time you learn something about them, they're changing, they're evolving, they're growing. And it's not that we're not still changing, evolving, and growing, but we're not growing or evolving at the same rate as they are.
Yeah,
we're stabilizing. The point of where we are as parents, we are stabilizing.
Yeah.
Okay, I became a parent just before I turned 16. I am 40 now. I'm different. I'm a different person. I'm a different woman. I'm a different mother. Yeah. And I pray that I've grown in the right direction, right? But I started from a place of, I want to be a good parent.
Yeah.
I want to be a good mom.
Yeah.
And that's where I started, even at that age. And that was one of my first prayers. Yeah. I said, God, please do not punish my child for having an immature parent. Please teach me how to be the mom that Aaron deserves.
Yeah.
That was my actual prayer.
That's good.
At that age. Yeah. And I didn't say it after I had it. I said that prayer while I was still carrying him. I was like, God, I'm lifting him up to you because I really desire to be the best parent I can be. Yeah. And over time, I watched him help me be a parent. And I saw the grace that he put on our kids' lives to help us parent them. And so we say, there's no perfect person, there's no perfect parent, but you are perfect for your kids. I'm trying to look at the lens, y'all. I'm that person. Mm-hmm. You are perfect for your kids. You are anointed for your kids.
That's good. Yeah.
If you are married for a reason. You are joined together. You are partnered together for the purpose of raising humans,
whole humans
that will and God will be glorified through your life and through their life. You have what you need inside of you, but do not forsake or forfeit the work of the Lord in all of this. And that's where we say humility comes into place, and knowing that we can't do this on our own.
Yeah, you're right.
Right?
Yeah.
We cannot do this on our own. We can't be married. We can't love each other well on our own. The best way I've learned to love Kedron was learning to love God wholeheartedly, to be submitted to God, to be humbled before God, to be completely submitted to Him. Did I say submitted twice? To do all those things for God first. Right? And as I've done that in our relationship, I have felt myself come to love and honor my husband more. Because that also plays a role in the parenting. So what happens when you have two parents who have two different parenting styles or beliefs about parenting? Y'all don't want to talk about that in the comments, but if you do, we here for it.
Yeah, that's real though. Yeah, and that might have to be, we may have to have some parents on here to talk about that, but you're absolutely
maybe
right.
Shelly and Jermaine will do it with
we
us.
definitely got to have the bells on here.
Yes.
But yeah, that's key. Give yourself some grace. I saw Shelly put this up here earlier.
What's that?
How she said I always feel guilty for punishing the kids. So I miss y'all. Want another chance? Yeah, but here's the thing, and Shelly, you're so sweet. She's such a sweet mother, great mother, wonderful mother, and she don't play about her kids. Take care of her kids, and y'all do a great job. But as parents, we want to do so much for our kids, and we don't want. I know sometimes for me, I'm like, dang, I don't want to have to do this. I remember even when I was coming up as a kid, my mom used to say, this gonna hurt me more than it hurts you. And I didn't understand that back then, because that was not the truth. You are not hurting physically right now. It was the mental.
And my friends outside playing, I'm inside, I'm hurting.
Right, yeah. But it was that I don't want to say mental hurt, but just even
Like I don't
like your soul, like it hurts me, in a different way, because it's like, man, but I want to teach you and train you, and if I don't do that, like, you won't grow if there's not a resistance in that way. And sometimes as parents, more times than not, the resistance is going to come from us. We have to resist the urge to not address things that our kids shouldn't be doing. Like, we have to address those things, not being petty, being intentional, being purposeful, because that's how they're going to grow. You get stronger when you meet resistance.
Yes.
And so we have to be that anointed, practical resistance that our kids need in order for them to grow and get stronger. So we're going to want to show them grace, and it's okay. Do it. You know what I mean? Give them another chance. God does it for us, and so it's going to happen, and there's going to be some times where it's like, I want to, but I'm not, or you may have your significant other to say, hey, no, just a little bit longer.
Yes. And let them do that.
Yeah, it's going to always be in you,
That's love.
It's love, and it's the grace of a mother. It's the grace of a parent. Yeah.
No, I was thinking about that too, Shelly. When you say punishing, I remember growing up and it being like, well, I can't come outside because I'm on punishment. And I think that's part of it for us mentally. It's the language, right? Giving consequences is not the same as a punishment.
That's true.
Like punishment is like, I want you to hurt. I'm going to mistreat you.
That's good.
I'm going to mistreat you because of what you did.
And that's not what you do.
And that's not what you do. That's not who you are.
Yeah.
It's discipline, which means to teach and to train. And in order to teach you this lesson, I have to train you in this way. So this resistance, I have to teach you. I have to help. This lesson has to drive a point home that makes you resist doing this behavior as a result of this consequence. And when your kids start figuring out this behavior and this consequence match each other, and I don't want to see them, then that means I've learned my lesson, and I'm probably not going to do that. That's why it takes so much time. We have to give the same consequence over and over again sometimes to the same child for doing something similar, because they're building their resistance for it. And it's like they're trying to resist their flesh because they want to do what they want to do. And I just imagine like how God felt in the garden, because that's the first thing the enemy wanted them, Adam and Eve, to do, was just be disobedient. He wanted them to be disobedient. He wants our kids to be disobedient. And that guilt, like guilt and shame, period, they don't come from God, right? There's no guilt and shame in him, but we feel bad. And so my encouragement to you, because we've been there, like, don't let the enemy make you feel bad for doing the right thing, because you are an amazing mom.
For sure.
You and your husband, y'all are great parents, and y'all do it together.
Yeah,
that's a blessing. That's an amazing thing. But I think about how he felt having to give them the consequence. Like, look, I could give you another chance, but this was your second chance. I told you what to do, and I told you what not to do. And you did what I told you not to do, and you didn't do what I told you to do. So the grace is that you won't die here in this garden for your sin, but you got to be put out.
And something had to die.
Something had to die eventually, right?
Yeah, something had to
because there was sin entered the world at that moment. Sin entered the world at that moment. And so every time our kids get away with it, and because we've done this, and what happens is when they get away with it, it teaches them exactly the opposite. We caught one of our kids even telling a friend one time, I thought I was going to get in trouble because my parents said if I did this, this was going to happen, but they didn't do nothing. And we were like, we thought we were being gracious, and we were. But in her mind, she got away with it. And it taught her they're not going to do that. I mean, and she put it in print to make it very clear. Like, she thought that, oh yeah, they always say that. They're not going to do it though. And they didn't do it this time. So yeah. So we understood, okay. What we thought was grace, maybe.
Because it didn't take it back because she didn't recognize it.
No, yeah, it didn't take back the grace. But maybe she doesn't need grace in that area. She needs consequence in that area.
And also know that was grace that was being shown, and not us
not us forgetting or neglecting.
Yeah, because there's a lesson in both ways. So maybe she didn't need it, but she still needs to know what it was to recognize that. Because
we knew that she knew it was wrong.
Right. Yeah.
That she knew the behavior was wrong, and she knew that there was a consequence because past experience taught her that there was some talk of a consequence. Mm-hmm. So she knew that. And it's okay. We weren't mad, but it made us go back and revisit as parents. Yeah. This is not the lesson that we're still teaching. She gets it.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not her playing the game. It's her playing us if we continue to allow it. So now we have to make sure that we keep our word and that we are firm in what we said.
And then also making sure that they recognize what grace is.
Yeah.
Because those second chances are going to come. You know, we are going to do that, but we don't want it to be manipulated or taken for granted too. You know what I mean? That's not going to teach them, you know, that's not going to teach them in a way for them to grow. So,
and they need to know, they need to know we sharp too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And look here, Keegan, Abby said, gosh, I miss you guys so much. Look, give me all those O's.
Yeah.
Abby, we miss you too. Every time we see you on Facebook or doing anything, we think about you. You are absolutely unforgettable. Y'all, Abby lives in San Antonio. I'm not going to tell all her business, but just every encounter we've ever had with her has been highly inspirational, prophetic. This is a woman who hears from the Lord, is obedient to God. She is brave and courageous. Yeah. And she has been saying what the Lord has told her to say as long as we've known her. I don't know if it's without fear or fear, but I know it's always with obedience. She might be doing it afraid sometimes. I still think that is bravery and that is courage. Yeah. And it's so loving and so kind. And no matter how much time ever passes between, you know, our fellowship time together, it always feels like so much love. Like when you say you miss us, we believe you and we miss you too. And we pray that you believe us and that you are doing well and that God's favor just continues to be on your life and that you keep saying what he tells you to say, keep doing what he tells you to do. Like, I feel like you just have zero limitation in the spiritual. You just have zero limitation, my love.
Man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Love you, man. Love you, Jermaine.
Love you. Thank you. Y'all are too. We're so proud of y'all. Sure. We watched y'all be auntie and uncle to our kids. Can I just say this real quick? We will never forget Aaron, his senior prom.
Yeah, we talked about this recently.
And he told us at the last minute, he was one of those kids, he just didn't get into the social scene as much in school, was very likable, very friendly. But he went back and forth so much that we did not prepare for him to do senior prom because he told us that he didn't want to go. And then at the last minute, he wanted to go and we were short on the resources and the money to like make that happen for him. And we told his auntie and uncle. And when I tell you, they came through. I mean, got him a suit. His uncle Jermaine was the chauffeur, brought his SUV, picked him in his front up at our house, took pictures. He was dressed in a suit. Sharp to like be a chauffeur for this prom to make sure that they had a great time. And Aaron will never forget that. But as parents and that being our oldest child, first child to go to prom, we will never forget that. Like y'all are winning forever. There's nothing y'all cannot ever ask us for. Like y'all already know.
Straight up. That's real. We love it. We love y'all.
Yes.
That's so good. Relationships are currency.
Yes. Especially the ones with your babies.
Yeah, for sure. They matter. And those are forever relationships, right? Yes. You know, for as long as we shall live, even after the fact, like our impact on our children's lives are going to be forever, right? Forever. And so just remember not to be petty. Be mindful, be intentional. Yeah. And this is one of my favorite scriptures right here. One of our favorite scriptures, actually, you know, when you think about what the Bible says, how we need to raise our children. And it says to train them up. Train up a child in the way he should go, right? When he's old, he will not depart from it.
Yes.
It's the training part that we need to understand.
Yeah.
That's going to be
so good.
Repetitious. And that can get frustrating for us. So frustrating sometimes that we might be petty because I'm tired of telling you. Mm-hmm. I'm tired of telling you to stop doing such and such.
Be frustrated, but not petty.
Right. You know, and it's okay to express that. You know, we're going to feel those feelings, you know. But sometimes we got to take a break. You know, my mom was good at that. I was a little mischievous, to say the least, when I was young. There were some things I did. I'll talk to y'all. It'll be a whole nother episode, you know, about that. But there were some things that I had done as a kid. I remember one particular thing that I did, and well, I'll tell y'all. I called the cops on my mama one time because she wouldn't give me no Jello. She wouldn't give me no orange Jello. And orange Jello. I remember she was making enchiladas that night. And my mama, shout out to Mello, Teresa Mackey. I love you, mama.
I love you too.
Her enchiladas, oh my God, was just to die for that meal. And I remember she was making enchiladas that night, and she was talking to. We were in Colorado, you know, and she was on the phone with family at the time. She may have been on the phone with my grandmother at the time. And so I wanted some Jello. She was in there making Jello. Now, for all the aunties and the great aunties that may see this, or people that have had some homemade Jello, you know that it's a process. The little boxes, take the little box and they say gel dash, little powder box, you gotta boil it. And then after you boil it, you put it in the bowl and you gotta put it in the refrigerator so it can get cold. Yeah, and cool. It wasn't ready yet. And I wanted it now. You know what I mean? You know, so I didn't get it. Anyway, I sat there and we had this telephone that had it had like the police badge, it had the cross for the ambulance, and then it had the fireman's hat, so I picked up the phone and I hit boom, give me that police badge, because this is an emergency, it's a crime right now, and I give me no Jello on what I want right now. Call that, lifted that phone. Colorado Springs Police Department, how may I help you? My mom won't give me no Jello. Click. Boy, how smart was I? Hung up on this operator. They called back not 2 minutes later. I'm gone. My mama, I hear her, because once you do something, you know what's happening. I'm creeping back up the hallway because I want to like ear hustle to see what's going on. Is it, who's calling back, So I hear my mama on the phone. Yes, it is. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Oh, he did. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah. I'll give him some Jello, all right. Oh, when I heard that, I hung up that phone. And I'm like, but this is my point. This is what my mother did. She was so upset and disappointed. Like, if you could just think about it as a parent, you're in there cooking a meal,
making dessert,
making dessert, and it's your family's favorite meal. Like, you're doing so much, but then it's your moment,
right?
You know what I mean? And for one of them little rascals to set a little nappy head self down in the corner of a wall and call the cops on you because you can't get something that ain't even ready. My mama, bless her soul. So what she does, she ends up calling my mama, and it's because she was so upset. So she said, "Look, mom."
When you make your mama call, hey mama.
Mama, this little joker, however she expressed it, whatever she called me at that time. He called the cops on me, but what do I need to do? So anyway, long story short, my grandmother told her to just wait, calm down, and she needed to just process it and whatnot. So I still end up getting in trouble that night. I end up having to take a bath in some Epsom salt. So if y'all know anything about that, you already know the end result. But she didn't give it to me right in that moment. She did have to process to not be extra and do it out of anger. We don't want to discipline our children and out of anger. That's not going to help them. That's going to hurt them, right? Because we're trying to hurt them in that moment, and that shouldn't be our goal, to hurt our children.
That's punishment.
We want to help them. We want to help them, right? Joe. So the way we can help them is to teach them and to train them, let them know that how they impacted you. I mean, I'm sure my mother gave me the rundown of what that could have been. And nowadays, you call the police for something like that, it could turn a whole another way, But anyway, just want to remind y'all, this is what we firmly believe as believers, that we need to train up our children in the way, sow the seeds that need to be sown right now, because when they grow, it will not depart from them. That will be rooted in their spirit, rooted in their hearts and their minds. And they'll remember the things that you taught them out of love.
Right.
And they'll reciprocate that, and they'll be better for it.
That's right.
And honor you even in that, So It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. And I also want to say this right here is another thing. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, right? By the way you treat them. And so when you think of parents, don't be petty, right? Don't provoke. Because pettiness feels like, I'm telling you, when you do it, I've done some petty things, and it's just like, yeah, I got him. That was a good one. You know what I mean? It's, what do we call it? It's physical, what do we call it? The physical form of sarcasm, you know? Sarcasm. And that's not the way we need to do it, but rather bring them up with discipline and instruction.
We admit it. Yeah. We haven't always done things right. We're practicing, not perfect. Yeah. But that's why we can talk about this.
Most definitely, you know, so.
But rather bring them up with the discipline and instruction that comes from the Lord. Ephesians 6:4.
If we don't do anything that we do, we need the help of the Lord. Like, we work together, but it's Jesus at the center. Lord, help us. Come on. Lord, help us. We need you. I know there's been plenty times where, you know, I know we've prayed together. I know you've prayed in your separate, you know, situation. I prayed in my separate situation about these kids, about how, you know, how they've impacted me personally, you know, one-on-one in seasons of their lives, and how I prayed, or us together.
We didn't have to sit together and be like, hold on.
Right. But how to pray like, God, I need some help. We need some help on how to raise these kids, on what to do. You know what I mean? And so it's real in these parenting streets. And we know that, you know, y'all understand that as well as parents, and give yourself some grace. Right. But also understand too that it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. There's some things you might not ever get credit for while they're young, while they're in this stage. You know, it's usually those acceptance speeches, you know, if we are blessed to see things like that, or, you know, whatever it is, sometimes we're not doing it for that. Right. You know,
we parent that God may be glorified.
Yeah. And
you have to look at your parenting as an assignment as well.
Yeah.
For every person that God created, He created a purpose. And so we're blessed. If you had parents to steer you and raise you, you were blessed. If you had less than ideal circumstances growing up, we understand that too.
Yeah.
And we are aware of those circumstances and those instances. Thank God that you are even on listening right now. He has kept you in your right mind. And if you're watching this, it's because you care something about what we're talking about today. But also, we have to be okay to know that we're planting seeds for a tree that may bear fruit that we may never taste. That's faith.
Yeah.
That takes faith to say, we know we're doing the right thing and we're going to do the best we can.
Yeah.
Whether we get to see them grow up and live this out. God forbid, we don't live to see them grown and have children. We take our confidence in knowing that what God gave to us for them in this season is well with Him. And none of our parenting replaces the sovereignty of God, or the free will
of our children,
or the free will of our children.
That's a whole nother thing. Yeah.
So you don't have to wear the burden of feeling like you have to perfect parenting, but do what you know is your best. In every season of their life.
That's good, girl. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
For sure.
You're a great dad. I say it all the time. Look, you make me better. There's something about, I think I'm a better wife because of the type of husband that Keedron is. I know that I'm a better mom because of the type of father that he is. And of course, our kids make us better parents collectively because they teach us about ourselves and them. They don't just teach us about them, they teach us about ourselves.
Yeah.
And we learn a lot about ourselves, even in our interactions with each other, because again, parenting is a co-labor activity. Yeah. We get to do this together. But while we're laboring in the field of our kids, we have faith that there will be a harvest because we believe that our kids are good ground. So if we never sit up under the shade of the trees that we are planting, we want them to have a firm foundation, and that is in the Lord. Yeah. So that is more than we could ever give them out of our experience, out of our parenting. And our parents did the best they could with us. And we think they did a decent job. They showed us who Jesus was. They didn't even depend on their parenting. They gave us the best gift they could have ever, which was leading us to Christ. Yeah. So, you know, that's where we are.
For sure. I love that. I love that. Listen, we thank y'all for rocking with us, for talking with us. We're grateful for these moments. We're going to keep them going. This has been our conversation on petty parenting. Don't be petty.
Don't be petty.
Because it's not productive.
No.
And it's not going to help, you know, our children, and it impacts us and them in ways that we're not going to we're just not going to want to see. And so thank y'all for listening.
Yes. And you can please, if you appreciated this content, one thing we ask anyone to do is, even if you're watching from Facebook, if you'll jump over to our YouTube channel every now and again and go by and like these videos once they're posted. What they do is they just tell the internet that this is quality content. We're not out here acting crazy, and we're not judging anybody's content. You don't like someone's content, don't watch it. We don't go on people's comments and fight, but we do believe that this is quality. We enjoy doing this. So you'll help us let the YouTube community know that there are people that care about some of the things that we talk about. I don't care if it's 6 of y'all. Somebody's listening to everyday conversations that we have on a regular conversation, and that you would appreciate hearing more of it and seeing more of it. So do that. If you feel compelled, do subscribe if you're not already. If you feel compelled, leave a comment, share with a friend. You can copy the link from YouTube, or you can share on your social media. Now you can share it to your stories. It'll be gone 24 hours. If you just don't want it posted on your timeline, that's okay too. But that is what we ask, and we appreciate you. Those of you who have already been doing that, it means a lot, and it encourages us to keep coming and talking. These are conversations we have all the time. So now we're just turning on the camera to conversations with the Bostons. So thank you for talking with us.
Yeah. Thank you, Mama. We love y'all, and we will see y'all next week. So stay tuned. Talking with the Bostons. Love y'all.
Bye, guys.